Arteta! What a strike! What a screamer! Zola! And a fantastic goal! Arsenal back in it! And here's Limpar, lines it up, finds the net. Arsenal in front.
And we are live. Welcome to the Arsenal Vision pre-match show. My name is Elliot Spence. You can block me on Twitter at Yankee Gunner. Thanks so much for joining. This ought to be interesting. We're going to do a lot of fun stuff today. Hopefully, we're going to predict the lineup. Then we are going to freak out about why the lineup didn't meet our predictions. We'll talk about what's going to happen in the game, obviously. And if you're saying, what game possibly could he be discussing? Of course, it is Arsenal Olympiacos. Olympiacos with the ill fortune of having to play the home leg, the first leg, at Arsenal's home stadium in Greece. As you may know, our home stadium from the last round, where things went just fine. No drama whatsoever. So, we're going to have Scott on today. We are going to have Paul on today. We're going to have Tim on today. Yes, we're going to have Clive on today. And yes, we're going to have Jessica Black on today as well from She Knows Arsenal. And we're going to mostly be taking your questions. We're going to give you the final Premier League table. Can you believe that? Yes, we did our Predictatron. We're going to give you the final Premier League table, so you don't want to miss that, because then you won't have to watch Arsenal and go through the ups and downs. You'll just know what's going to happen. Most importantly, thank you for being here. Love you so much. Really appreciate you sharing this time with us. And so here I can invite our first guest onto the show, and that is Scott. You can find him on Twitter at O_that_crab. Hello, Scott.
Yeah, I love all the new graphics, new haircut. You're just looking all sorts of everything.
I got to keep up with you, my man. I got a ring light. I got a new camera. The ultimate end result of all of this is going to be calamity, I am sure. But I figure if my internet company can get their finger out and fix the internet, then surely
anything's possible.
Anything's possible, and I can try to professionalize this show. I'm using the whitest white filter, white balance of my ring light. So let's just ask the viewers here. We'll start off with viewer comments and questions right off the bat, which is basically the most important stuff. So here's what I've got, Scott. You can view this. I can actually make the ring light do this. Do we like me better? A little more like that? A little warmer?
A little more tan. Okay. It doesn't look like you've been inside for the last year.
But I have been inside for the last year. And then I can go full daylight and just go right to 5,700 Kelvin. This is the kind of stuff people tune in for. Do we like me like this? Like the ghost of Minnesota past, which is literally what I am?
Or that might be a little too white. You're a little washed out.
Let's let the people... Oh, yeah, well, I did get a little Trump comparison with the orange filter. So I don't know. Don't make it red. People will get the wrong idea. Yes, add more blood. Sun-kissed. Okay, well, let's see. This is the fun stuff. We're doing this live because it's the first time I've ever had this thing.
That one looks pretty good. That's not a bad color.
That looks pretty good. Okay, everybody, This is your vote. Is this
happy medium?
Is this the keeper? The happy medium. Yeah, the happy medium indeed. So, all right, we're going to stick with sun-kissed, I guess we're calling this. Is that what we're calling this? Fine, stop here. Okay, can do. Stop here. Let's get on to the stuff that actually matters, if you actually perceive Arsenal as mattering. And the first thing we're going to do, Scott, is let's just dive right in and do lineup predictions to start the show. We are going to be showing you the final Premier League table. The final table. You are not going to want to miss that, because then you don't have to pay attention to what happens the rest of the season. Scott, why don't you give me your lineup prediction for tonight? I don't know, has any news broken? I haven't had a chance to check.
No, I've been in work meetings, so I have not been all on the Arsenal Twitter to see if there's been any leaks or anything like that. So I don't know for sure. I mean, I did see yesterday that that everybody is healthy in the first team, which is crazy. And I think that we did some sort of a sacrifice to make that happen, because this is Arsenal and we're not supposed to have everybody healthy all at once.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, right? All everybody says is that this is the most brutal season of all. And here Arsenal are in the middle of the brutal season, and we are fully fit. So it's quite incredible. I do want to just reiterate, people just tuning in. Clive will be here later. Tim will be here later. Paul will be here. Jessica Black will be here. Scott and I will be here, unfortunately, but you can't have everything. So, all right. I mean, I think, all right, let's rule out some things that we know. Like, would you say that it'll be Bern Leno in goal? There's been no indication.
I think it's going to be Leno. I think we're going to see Tierney on the left, at the left fullback. I think that one's pretty much written in stone. I'm fairly certain it's going to be Aubameyang at center forward, and I think it's going to be Saka at one of the positions.
Okay.
So I think those are, givens. Those are, first names on the team sheet. I think Xhaka comes back in, even though he made the Xhaka. I don't think that he will ever get a break.
Okay.
I think we get Partey again. I think he's definitely in there. So I think that's our center, midfield pairing. So Partey, Xhaka, party time.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be Odegaard in the number 10.
Okay.
I want to say it's going to be Pepe,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not 100% sure. I think it might be Willian, who's admittedly played okay. I mean, he was good, and then I think he was fine. So, but I think that's the barrier that he just needs to get over to be able to be written in. So I think we'll have Willian. I think it's going to be Bellerin on the right.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that'll be the case, especially when you start getting with Saka. I think he's a better choice there. I think it's going to be Luiz at the right center back, and then I'm going to say it's going to be the all Brazilian pair. I'm going to go with Gabriel at the left center back.
Yep. So just real quick, I want to make sure, everything looks good here. Just double checking that we're broadcasting onto all the requisite channels. I've got someone asking in the comments, why not on YouTube? We should be on YouTube. So if you're,
I'm seeing here on YouTube that we're streaming and everything's good to go. I've got the comments up watching. Good
stuff. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I got to wonder, look, Willian has done better lately. I think we can acknowledge that, he had a hand in the goal in the disappointing Burnley draw. He had a hand in Tierney's goal that started the fight back that actually got us past Benfica. But I still think in terms of absolute threat that he causes, it's got to be Pepe, right? I mean, this is the away leg. Go get goals. We can talk a little bit about Olympiacos, and we did on the Patreon pod yesterday, but they've racked up a ton of goals domestically. They haven't conceded much. But in the Champions League, I think they had 1 win, 5 losses, 2 goals for, 10 conceded, something like that. It was Marseille they beat, but between the other teams in their group, which were Porto and City, they got absolutely housed. So they did get past PSV. Do you have any sort of sense on the strength of the opposition? And maybe you can talk about the ELO rating or the 528 predictions there?
528, that's an interesting new website.
Yeah, it is. The problem is, this in this economy, who can afford 538? Let's be honest. Who can afford a 538 in this economy?
Yeah, so I haven't done a ton more looking into them since we talked yesterday because, it's the Greek league. I don't really know much about it. Looking at their stats in the Europa League, they've been fine, I suppose. I mean, they did nothing really great. Looking at it, they were 1.39 XG for, 1.01 XG against. So, they were the better team in there, but they were not necessarily a great team against PSV. So, I mean, it's one of those, they're good, but Arsenal are a better team. Look at the ELO ratings, and they are probably, if you were going to compare them to a Premier League team, they'd be lower mid-table. Part of that is just the strength of the Premier League right now, I think, is something that people underrate. And I think, everybody said that, the top 6 just aren't as good. But I think, it's really been that the middle teams have gotten a lot better. Looking at where they rank among the teams that are left in the Europa League on the SBI, which is 538's ranking, they are, I think, 5th from the bottom. So there's Mold all the way down at the bottom. There's Kiev, Granada, Prague, Zagreb, and then we got Olympiacos. So it's not a great team.
Yeah, I think it's clear if there's one thing that you should be, if you maybe you're not a homeowner yet, but if you ever become a homeowner, you're going to want to look for mold all the way at the bottom because that is something that can be a problem.
In the deep, dark places.
Yeah, that's where you'll find mold. And also at the bottom of the 538 rankings of the teams remaining in the Europa League. We do have reports that Varchester United added again. They were down 1-0 early to Milan, but no, afraid, called back for a handball. So that sucks, but here we are. I do want to sort of take your idea about how we should approach this game generally, because the oh my gosh, is this true? 2 Milan goals disallowed. There's no need to tune over. Stay here. Clive's going to be on, Tim's going to be on, Paul's going to be on. Just stay with us. We're going to do predictions. We're going to tell you how the Premier League table wraps up, the final standings of the Premier League. You're not going to want to miss that. So Yeah, lots to come. Jessica will be here. Do you have a sense of how we should go for this? I mean, I think given that it's the away leg and we have Spurs at the weekend, do you think he'll be a little conservative and try to hit him on the counter and just keep it tight? Or is this a chance to just go for him and end the tie in the first leg?
I mean, that's where I'd lean. I guess I'm definitely, if I was going to say my personality, it is definitely not one that leans towards risk averseness. I would rather try to go win a match and, risk losing a match kind of thing. I mean, I think especially with away goals, it's probably more important to go out and get a few away goals. So even if it does risk, giving up a couple, if we're going to get counterattacked, that's fine, whatever. Let's go get 2 goals at least. I think that's kind of my opinion here. Ideally, we just win it 2-0 or 3-0, something like that, and just make it super easy for the return match. But it's got to be something you go out there and attack, and you cannot play for a 0-0 that would just absolutely kill Arsenal, or even losing. You can't be conservative. I think you have to go out and try to win and take this to them.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. So,
especially because we're the better team, I think the onus will be on us to try to prove that.
Yeah, welcome, Eddie. Good to have you aboard. Yeah, I agree. I think this is a chance for Arteta to really fully kill the perception that he is overly concerned with solidity and nullifying the opposition. I mean, just go out, get Pepe in there, get Saka in there, Aubameyang in there, Odegaard between the lines, and I think we have a chance to really hurt them. And given that they may feel a little more obligation to come at us in the home leg, then I think Pepe is even more important because of his value in the counterattack. This is going to be a chance to see Thomas Partey in a big spot. And Scott, we haven't really had Partey. I think, did we have it? We had Partey for the United game. Is that right? The one we won at Old Trafford?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but we haven't.
Because that was definitely the one that he bossed Pogba a few times and everybody lost their mind how good he was.
Yeah.
And it was a great performance.
And it was great. This is really the first time I want to say that we've seen him have the opportunity in a big spot, right? So how influential do you think Partey can be tonight? I think given Granit Xhaka's, let's say, challenges of late, I think he'd be thankful to have Partey alongside him in this game. And, I look for him to really be important, regaining the ball and getting it to Odegaard between the lines to set off the attacks. Yeah,
and I'd really like to see him, see if he could be that third or fourth kind of creator guy to do something like that, to be able to, I don't want him to make, tons of runs into the box, but I'd like to see him, be able to add more into attack, because I think that's something that we've really missed from midfield. The only player that I really felt somewhat comfortable seeing that is Dani Ceballos this year doing that. And I don't think that's necessarily his biggest strength as well. And that's something that, we've really missed since Aaron Ramsey has gone, is somebody who can make late runs and do those things. I think that was actually probably one of my most disappointing things against Burnley, is that I didn't think that this was a great performance from Thomas Partey, except for, the one move that he did to beat the press to get the goal. Other than that, I think he was rather anonymous and didn't really do that much. And I think he got tired relatively quickly in this one. So I think this would be a great opportunity to have him kind of go and earn his, big transfer fee that he's done. And that's just been the hardest thing, I think, for me, is I think he's probably our best overall midfielder, except that he hasn't been able to be consistently on the pitch. And I think that's really hurt Arsenal as a team.
Some of the best performances that we would be aware of as fans that he had at Atletico were in the Champions League. Against Liverpool, for example, comes to mind. So, maybe the European competition really suits him. We'll see. I mean, I think it could be a big night for Partey to really show. I mean, he's in his prime. He's in the center of the pitch. He has the physical dominance to control that space and the technical quality to carry it from back to front and set up attacks. I think, he's fit. He's played a little bit now. He should be really raring to go. He said we haven't seen the best of him yet, so we'll see. Are we underestimating the difficulty new managers face in managing European games, irrespective of quality of opposition? Arsene never really mastered it. I would actually argue that Arsene pretty well mastered beating the weaker teams, both domestically and in Europe. I think that was where he really hung his hat as a manager. But Scott, this is a chance for Arteta to get a measure of redemption. Had it not been for the pandemic, a lot of things. So, I mean, look, had it not been for the pandemic, everything. But in this one specific incident, Had it not been for the pandemic, I think there would have been more attention on Arsenal crashing out to Olympiacos last season. We did win away. We did still crash out. This is unfinished business for him, and I think, and for the team, a lot of those players are still in the side. Do you think that, I hate to go straight to soft factors, but do you think that Arteta will be using that frustration from last season, even though it was so abruptly cut off with the pandemic layoff, to motivate them to really want to put this team down quickly and early?
I mean, that's a hard thing to say because do you really need motivation when you're in the round of 16? Like, this is the time where things really start meaning something.
Coaches always look for an us against them narrative. They're always looking for an angle, right? I mean, you look at some of the best coaches, they always have a way. I mean, Jose Mourinho, who I can't stand and is not one of the best coaches anymore, but he made his career out of it being us against them, of it always being some axe to grind. And I think there is a benefit to motivating your team not to overlook, because if there's one thing big clubs do, Scott, is they overlook weaker opposition at times. And I think you can really fight that by saying, this is the team that knocked you out of Europe last season. Are you better than them?
Revenge.
Go show them you're better than them. Yeah.
Yeah. And, I think one of the things that, we've also seen is that this has been a season of crazy compressed schedule. I don't know if it's been that way in the Greek league, where they have less teams. I think it's a 12-team league or something like that. So they may not have had the same crazy compressed schedule that Arsenal have had to deal with. So I think this has been something where Arsenal have had to do some of this rotation. And, now that we are actually finally coming to a fully healthy squad, our team looks pretty good. We have options, especially that we've had emergence of players that look actually like they fit together. I think this will be something that'll be really good for Arsenal to be able to use that advantage and hopefully be able to really just have our depth show us. Because that's another thing. We have 5 subs in this game. So we can really go out there fast and say, you know what, it's not that I want to sub you, but I want you to give me something crazy for this 50, 60 minutes. And then it's like, then we can bring in a fresh pair of legs to really kind of finish things off. So I think that is something that we should be able to use to our advantage, that we have 5 subs in this match.
I think that's true. Look, the other reason I think that motivating the players to really think about Olympiacos as a team that wronged them is that we do have the derby at the weekend, and we'll come to that in a minute because I want to talk to you about how that influences a lot of things today. I think this is a great question, though, Scott. Who are our best 2 center backs? Surely they start today. With all the focus on Pepe needing to start over Willian and some of the confusing choices up front that we may be frustrated about, and the emergence of more options up front, it's sort of a kind of quirk of the season that we've also arrived at a situation where we have some interchangeable parts at the back.
Yeah.
Luiz is the sort of seasoned pro, but he's always got a Luiz mode. He's the deputy Mustafi in the absence of Mustafi. He, although Xhaka took that role.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say.
We got a few of them, to be fair. But I think when you look at the situation between Holding and Luiz and Gabriel and Mari, whoever's left out is going to feel probably a little bit, they'll be disappointed, obviously, but maybe feel that it was a little unjust at some level because they've all made an argument for starting. So do you have a sense of who the best 2 are, and is it to some extent driven by the partnership specifically?
Yeah, and I think a lot of it also depends on who you're facing, because if you're going to have most of the possession, those kinds of things, I think that's something that suits David Luiz, because I think you can pretty obviously see that he's the best passer of all of our center backs. So that's something that if you want to be able to, build from the back, be able to press teams or push teams back with passing, I think that's something that really suits him. So that's kind of why I chose him for this match. But, I don't think I would be overly, if you chose somebody else, I don't think that would make a hard or be a bad decision. I think there's really not daylight in between any of our center backs. They all have kind of different kind of pairs or different kind of strengths. I've actually been quite impressed by Pablo Mari. I wasn't his first couple outings before he got injured, but I think since he's come back, I think he's looked a lot better. I was actually quite impressed some of the times with him chasing players down. I didn't expect that from him. So usually you just don't necessarily see somebody that size being able to run with center forwards, which I think has been quite good. I think Gabriel, I really like the style that he does. He's, gets up onto players and, isn't a player that dives into things, but it really kind of does the stand-up tackling really well. And then Rob Holding, I don't know if he necessarily does anything great, but I think he's just a really good kind of all-around above average at most everything. So it's like, I don't know if there's a bad choice for our center backs. And I think you just kind of got to pick what the strengths match with the opponents that we're going to be facing.
Yeah, I think that's well said. And yeah, I do want to make the point that I pretty well hammered Mediacom cable for my internet. As you can see, they have dug into the ground, put new stuff into the place, connected it to the things, and now the things do the stuff. So
the tubes are connected for the internet.
I don't like, well, it's not a dump truck. It's a series of tubes. I don't like to get technical, but that is a technical description of what has happened. We are going to talk about a lot. Oh gosh, there must be a Paul. Yeah.
Yeah,
Pablo Maria is faster than you all. The interesting thing about Paz is that Paz had said that this was the time he wanted to be on the live stream. And as you can see, he's not here right now. But Paul presumably will be. Scott will be. Tim will be. Clive will be here. If you are here for Clive, you do not want to miss it. He's coming on when the lineups are announced, so he can do all the blockbuster stuff. And Jessica Black will be here as well, so you don't want to miss that. Let's do some fun.
All right.
Let's do some fun. What do you say?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I want to do, first of all, is I want to do a little would you rather. And I'm going to ask for people to throw theirs out in the comments, and we'll take as many of these as we can before we get to the Predictatron, because I want to talk about that. We predicted the end of season table, and you don't want to miss it because you won't have to watch any more Arsenal the rest of the season once we get to that. So would you rather is basically a chance for us to pose hypotheticals. They can range from serious to ridiculous. Ridiculous, obviously, more preferred. But I will start it off with this one to give people a sense of what to throw into the comments. And as you throw them in there, we'll answer them. Scott, would you rather Matteo Guendouzi comes back and plays for Arsenal next season with all the challenges and positives that go with that? Or would you rather he is sold for a nominal fee, nothing great, but we buy Danny Ceballos for £20 million?
I think for how many? £20 million for Danny Ceballos?
And yes, they can be rude, the would you rathers. Doesn't mean we'll get to them, but they can be.
Yes, I think I would rather have Danny Ceballos. I think there's just too much baggage with Guendouzi. I think that it's just all sorts of...
So you would spend $20 million on Danny Ceballos rather than trying to make it work with Matteo Guendouzi is what you're saying?
I think so, because I think that we're already going to probably end up not really being able to get anything of value from Guendouzi. So I think it's probably better just to cut it. I do love him though. So that's my, I will say that I love him as a player. I've always enjoyed watching him, but I think I do take Danny. Yeah.
I mean, it is a tricky one where they are all over the place. I would say, the answer that we're probably going to wind up with is invest in a better midfielder. And I think that is the question. Let's set the would you rather aside just for a minute, even though this section is called Would You Rather. But here's the cool part about hosting the show. We don't have to do what the segment is. In fact, we almost never do. Look, you know me. I think Guendouzi 4 to 5 years from now is playing at a Champions League level somewhere. I'm not saying Barca, I'm not saying Madrid, but I think you said this yesterday and I agree. A club of Champions League caliber and starting regularly. I'm not saying he's the star, but I think that is his level. I think the relationship feels broken, and it's pretty clear that Arteta is not the kind of manager who wants to work with tricky egos. Now, that may be an Arteta flaw, because, Scott, ultimately, that's sort of part of the game. But he doesn't seem to want to do it, so I think bringing him back and sort of forcing him to do it is a mistake. Having said that, I don't think Ceballos has regularly, consistently proven what he could be. If the Danny Ceballos of Project Restart had resurfaced this season and he'd played that way, 20 million would look like a snip. We just haven't seen it.
I think there's been flashes of it, but you're right. It has not been consistent.
He was good. When did he just come back from injury and he looked really good? Right? Was it the Wolves game or the Villa game? And I know those weren't great games. He looked good. The only thing...
Before his massive error against Benfica, I thought he was playing pretty well as well. It's just, all of our midfielders seem to be error prone and have issues and flaws. And I think, talking about, again, this kind of goes against what I said earlier about being more of a risk-taking thing. To me, he seems like he's got a high floor of his capabilities. He's at the age where he's right at this prime level. And, if he's not going to necessarily start every week in, week out, I think that he does provide a lot of good things for Arsenal as a third option.
The only thing I would say about Ceballos, it'd be cool to see what he could do with Partey. I don't think we've seen that partnership at all.
We have not.
It would be interesting to see it, because if it really works, that would sort of change your perception. Because I think also we spent so much on Partey. He's in his prime. We have an obligation I think to give him a partner that lets him thrive, because we've obviously committed a lot of resources to a player right in the heart of his prime. So we should do what it takes to maximize that. I like this question, even though the answer is probably pretty easy. Would you prefer to win the Europa League and stick with Mikel, or get knocked out of the Europa League if it meant we got Klopp next season?
So I think it says go for Klopp. So that doesn't mean necessarily
I'm changing
Klopp.
it, because why would you want to get knocked out of the Europa League to go for a guy you're not going to get? It only makes sense if you know you can get him. So I'm updating Dan's question. So no offense, Dan. It's win the Europa League, you stick with Mikel, you're in the Champions League next season, or get knocked out of the Europa League. You're not going to be in the Champions League unless you believe in Clive's Predictatron, which we'll get to in a bit. And you have Klopp next season. Which would you rather?
Man, I don't know. Because, I mean, that first one, I guess, I mean, how did we do in the Premier League in that first one? I mean, are things looking good? I mean, did we fluke our way to a Europa League, by being, just absolutely bamboozled, and we like win on some like own goals, something like weird like that? I don't know. I mean, if we played well, showed that this team might be capable of building towards third, fourth place next season, then I might say let's stick with Mikel. But I don't know. Klopp is, to me, one of the best coaches in the world, and it's really hard to turn that down. I'd also really like to just see Liverpool suffer without him. So I think that's kind of where I lean towards, is that I'd rather have a really, really, really good coach than it's not that I don't like Mikel, but I do think I'd lean towards Klopp.
I'm gonna disagree. Okay. And even though I think if Klopp's available, you have to take him, what I would say is you've got to go bird in the hand over the one in the two in the bush here. Because in my view, if you're in the Champions League next season, that totally changes the timeline of and the trajectory of the project to rebuild this club, to get them back into relevance. I mean, think of what it does for Arsenal Football Club to be back in that competition again, and to have won a European trophy, which we've never done in our club's career. So I think those two things are really important, and they would also signify that Mikel's ceiling is closer to where we hoped it was, especially in light of the trajectory we've been on. And in fact, I've got a comment here, stop bashing Arteta, please. I want to be clear, since post-Chelsea, whether you look at data, whether you look at the eye test, whatever it is, I'm really happy with the direction of travel. I think the results obviously have disappointed vis-a-vis how we're playing, but I'm super encouraged. If he continues on that trajectory and we were to win Europa League, you'd absolutely say, I'm in favor of sticking with this guy. Now, there's a lot that has to happen for that to happen. So, I mean, that's why it's a hypothetical. But I would stick with Arteta, because being in Champions League, to me, totally changes and shortcuts the process that we're on. Here's an interesting one. Would you rather be in the UEFA Conference League next season or out of Europe entirely?
I think I would rather be out of Europe entirely. The Europa League is prestige level already, kind of like most people don't care about it. I mean, especially like outside of once you get to the knockout stage, like the group stage of the Europa League has like no relevance at all. I don't think that the group stage of the Europa Conference League is going to be even remotely good. So to me, I think I would rather see Arsenal be able to have those early weeks without even having to do travel, without having to worry about that, losing training time. To me, I would rather have that to be able to go all in on a Premier League season and try to get back into a competition that we'd actually rather be in. So that's definitely me. I just think it's very League Cup. I mean, that's what we already kind of think about the Europa League.
But so can I ask you a question about that? Just real quick. So I totally get you. I think it's a worthless competition.
I don't think it's worthless. I think it might actually be fun to be able to, especially for other teams. But I don't know if would be fun for Arsenal.
Well, what I was going to say, no, is this like at a big club? One of the things you need time for your squad players and your academy players to play. Otherwise, they have to go out on loan, or you have to trim your squad. Even if you're in that crappy UEFA Conference League, if you commit to just playing kids and squad players, you keep your squad players fresh, and you find out if you have something in your kids, you can suddenly keep an Aziz at the club and give him those minutes versus having to send him away from the club. And you can keep him close and keep an eye on him. I think as long as you approach it the right way and you never take it seriously vis-a-vis using first-team players, I think it makes sense. Hey, guess what?
But so that's the thing, that you lose having 2 days of training.
But Yes. Okay. True. That's true. I didn't think about that. Scott's very smart, and I'm not. Here to join us now is Tim. You can find him on Twitter. So, hello, Tim. Can't hear you. Do I have to unmute you? I see you, but I don't hear you. So, remove Tim. Tim, I've removed you temporarily while you plug in the mic. Do you want to wave at me if you think you're good? Okay, let's bring him back in. Tim, hello. No, I can't hear him. Can you hear him, Scott?
Not yet. Nope.
It's funny because I hear noise coming from his general area, but I don't hear him. Let's leave him up on the screen as we watch. We'll see what his tech skills are like. We'll see how he is at tech support.
No pressure.
Let's have the discomfort of watching Tim try to do this. Anybody, would you rather? Let's keep going with the would you rather. Let's see. Would you rather? Okay. Well, that one I think is pretty easy. Let's see. Any other would you rathers? Woohoo Tim. I guess we can do the woohoo Tim. Tim, still no woohoo. No woohoo. Non-woohoo. Can't hear Tim. Oh yeah, this is a good question from Eddie. Why isn't Tim wearing an Arsenal top? He looks like he's... Yeah, Tim, you have like a contractual obligation to wear all of the Adidas range every time you're on. Hello there, Tim. We would say...
Yeah, one of the 12 jerseys we've come out with this year.
Yeah, Arsenal is now a fashion company, which suits Hector Bellerin, to be fair. Both Bellerin and the club perhaps better at the fashion side of things. Hello there, Tim. Tim, where's the baby? The baby ate the microphone cord, apparently. Tim, I'm going to remove you from the stream just real briefly. He has no idea. No idea. You know, it is a nice change, though, Scott. You'd have to agree that that the technical difficulties are not mine. Would you? Or
mine this time. I mean, I think it's just
you had
hops. It hops from person to person.
Mm-hmm.
So by the way, it's Tim got bit by the bug.
If you're wondering, we're doing a little bit of would you rather. You know what we can do in the meantime? One of the things we can pop up here. Let's move from would you. Wait. Oh gosh. Yeah, okay. Here you go. I love this. I love the discomforting ones. Scott, would you rather have Mourinho or Allardyce as manager?
I would rather have Big Sam.
Big Sam.
You know what? And I think part of it is Big Sam.
Is it because he gets sacked quicker? Cost
maybe.
Less?
It definitely costs a lot less. But I think also Big Sam, you know, he was a little bit early in his, you know, notice of let's take good shots and, you know, not shoot from distance kind of a thing. And I think he's not a horrible manager, as all of those things said. And he doesn't make me want to gouge my eyes out watching him do the PR stuff.
Yeah, I would say this. Like, I would rather neither, obviously, and it makes me sick to my stomach thinking about it. But if I have to take there's no scenario where Jose Mourinho being at our club would be acceptable to me, is what I would say. Let's see. We're going to bring Tim back onto the stream. Hey, Tim.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Hey, we're here.
Hey, there he is. Which means, Scott, I need a verification. Do I look stoned?
No.
I got to level with you. I would love to look stoned. I would love to be stoned right now, but I am not. It is presently not something that I'm capable of doing in the area where I live. Lineups are out, which means we're going to have to get to that. And Scott, I'll keep you on just for a minute. Tim, have you seen them yet? I'm going to bring up a little banner with them. Okay. So here we go as we edit them. Tim, real quick, we had a would you rather. I want to get your take on this. Would you rather Guendouzi comes back and plays next season with all the challenges that includes, or would you rather Ceballos is signed for $20 million and we sell Guendouzi for some nominal fee?
Oh, I'd probably go for the latter one just because it doesn't involve us losing a player for free. Yeah, like I'm not particularly exercised about whether it be Guendouzi or Ceballos. It's just if it's Ceballos, it means we sell Guendouzi, and it's probably about cost neutral. Whereas losing Guendouzi on a free, not cost neutral.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I think that's probably right. All right. Are you guys ready for the lineup freak out? I'm so ready for it. Oh my gosh. I'm so excited. So first thing we have to do is we have to say lineup reaction incoming, the absolute lineup freak out. Here we go. He's done it. I'm going to edit this actually real quick to make it make a little more sense because I've got him positioned in the wrong.
I haven't looked at it, so
oh my gosh, know. It's exactly what you might think he would do, and at some point you think he does it just to boil a little bit of piss.
I see Willian.
There it is: Leno, Bellerin, Gabriel, Louise, Tierney, Xhaka, Partey, Odegaard, Saka, Willian, Aubameyang.
I'm looking here. I think that might be exactly what I predicted.
I think it might.
I think I was pretty good there. So
guys, I want the maximum lineup freak out. We started off with Dave with the first Willian. Ugh. Here we go. It's the Willian lineup freak out you've been waiting for. Tim, let me ask you a question. If you bought something really expensive that you thought could be really, really great, like an awesome car, like a sports car, a huge expensive sports car that you were really excited about, spent a lot of money on it, but you also had like a war era Vega in the garage, would you just sort of leave the sports car in the garage? What's your feeling on Arteta's unwillingness to make use of this very expensive and suddenly seemingly valuable player in Pepe in favor of the wear and tear on the tires, the 100,000-mile Vega in the garage that is Willian?
Yeah, I wrote about this week, and I think what Arteta's got is, what's interesting about the attack is there's a series of really binary choices, and one of them is like, do you pick the players that actually score goals but are a bit lousy at structure and technical security, or do you pick the guys who have got technical security and structure and perhaps help you keep opponents under pressure but can't score? So like Lacazette versus Aubameyang, that's a very binary, not perfectly binary. Lacazette does score goals, but quite binary choice. And it's the same with Willian and Pepe. It's like, I do think Willian probably helps us to keep that structure and keep opponents under pressure, but he doesn't score, and he hasn't looked like scoring. He hasn't scored an Arsenal goal yet, has scarcely even come close. And for me, that's still just such a big problem. So the question is, with the existing options, do you coach Willian to score goals when he's nearly 33? It's probably not going to happen. Or do you coach Pepe and Martinelli as well, another goal scorer, to give you that kind of tactical structure? I'd go with the latter, I have to say. I've kind of given up rationalising on, because I'd be quite tempted to just say, oh well, it's the first leg and it's away, and he probably thinks, 1-0 would be quite nice, just like it was last year. Whereas in the second leg, you go for the more go for it players. But I wouldn't be surprised to see this lineup again in the second leg.
Scott. I mean, look, let's be clear. We've said this. Willian has done some things recently that are creditable, but I still think you even saw it against Burnley when Pepe came on, and just the way he can scare the crap out of a team. Guys, I still think, if you ask the opposition manager who he'd least like to face, you should probably play that guy. It's not that Willian's useless. I think as fans, we have started to overvalue players that do the dirty work or the structure stuff, right? We love Lacazette because of his hold-up play, and he keeps the ball, and he's back to goal, and we like Willian because he plays in structure and he's possession-oriented, not to mention the fact that he's had multiple games where he was one of our lowest passers by percentage. Set that aside. I just still think it's talent and flair and individual quality that wins games.
Yeah.
Yes, the tactics matter. Yeah, go ahead, Tim. Sorry.
I was going to say, and like something we perhaps didn't mention, I think in the pod on the last game, but that Saka chance that he misses when we're 1-0 up at Burnley, Aubameyang back to goal, linking play. Just like playing him in. But also the other problem is we don't have any midfielders that score. Our 4 central midfielders this season, 1 goal in the Premier League between them from Xhaka, 1, and that's a free kick against Chelsea. So when you've got midfielders that don't score as well, that puts more onus, I think, on get your structure from your midfielders. That's the decision you've made. You've got Xhaka and Partey, who are both good at what they do, but they don't score, right? Let them have your structure, and then put another goal scorer in the forward line.
Yeah, by the way, update, Maguire just missed an open net from 6 inches. We do love to see it, as the kids say. Scott, I'll let you have the final word before I let you go here. Just, it doesn't have to be the case that you hate the player that you prefer not be picked, right? I think Willian has graduated from player we can't stand and don't understand to a player who we sort of understand and see some value to, but maybe isn't as favored. For me, it was the case early in the season where I was just like, Willian, yikes. I don't think I'm there anymore with it. And that's really on the back of 2 decent performances, but fair enough. I think where I am with it is
I think it's also he has the track record to back it up. So it's okay.
Right, he came from a big club where he was a good player. You're right. He's not some nobody but again, are we just too willing to incorporate players who don't add enough of the serious elite final third kind of contributions that you really need to win football matches on a regular basis.
And I know it's something that Tim has talked a lot about. And I look at the lineup, and a lot of times when you look at the touch map, it'll end up looking like a 4-2-2-2 kind of a thing, where we have, the two midfielders, we have the two guys that play kind of as a number 10, and then you have two guys that kind of play as the wide forwards. So in this one, it's going to be Saka and Aubameyang, and that's fine. But I think one of the things that is a lot to ask of Saka at this time is to go out there and be responsible for getting 2 to 3 shots. I mean, I think he can do that, but I think that's a lot to ask for him. And I think it's something that I would rather see him play as one of the number 10s, the structure roles, and have him be more responsible for 1.5, 2 shots and trying to set up the teammates. So I think that's where I would rather see another player to be able to come in and provide those 3 shots, those, something like that, the more, threat to be able to do that. Because that's something that Willian has just not done this year. I looked at his stats and he's just over 1 shot per game. And that's just not good enough for where we need to be. And I think that's where a lot of times Arsenal's shot totals end up in the 10 to 12 range. It's just, we need a few more chances, especially if we want to get that second goal, which has been something that's been so tough for Arsenal this year, where too often we're at that we get a goal, but we cannot get a second. We might create enough chances to get a second, but, sometimes if that doesn't happen, you got to just keep pushing. And we don't have the players that always do that. And I think that's something that, we've had these great lineups. And I thought this was something that worked really well against teams that are going to try to press us, where we need a few more technical players, but where we're not going to be pressed a lot. And we don't necessarily need to have, a lot of the crazy technical. We need just one more player that can go and get shots. And it's like, that's a thing that's crazy to think about it, but shots lead to goals, and goals win matches.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I guess you could say is that Willian doesn't have a ton of minutes in his legs this season, and we've got a big game at the weekend, but neither does Pepe for that matter, and the indication isn't there that Pepe's going to start. Let me do this. Scott.
Is Pepe on the bench at least?
Yeah, I assume so.
Okay.
I haven't seen the bench come out yet because this isn't an official release of the lineup, just the Arsblog being Arsblog and knowing stuff release of the lineup. Scott, we'll let you go because we got a bunch of people getting ready to line up and join. So thanks for joining, and we'll talk to you in the near future.
Lots of fun. I'll be in the chat.
Scott's on Twitter, _that_crab. Thank you, Scott. All right, Tim, you got this. We can do this. Let me ask you, how much do you think the weekend factors into this selection at all? Or not at all? One of the things we talked about earlier is the center back pairing being sort of an interesting dynamic right now. Is it a partnership? Is it a rotation? Luiz sort of seems like the guy he wants to pick every game. Gabriel comes back in this game with Marie looking like he's there, maybe holding a bit behind Luiz in terms of his priority. What percentage of this lineup do you think is picked with an eye towards the weekend, if any?
I'm not convinced that that's the way it's been done. I do think, particularly with the centre backs, there is very much like a game-to-game detail there, depending on who we're playing. Although, to be honest, it does also seem to be that players just get runs in the team as well. So I can't quite figure out how much it's right. We're playing this team; they've got these attackers that do this, so we'll put these guys out. And frankly, Mari and Gabriel are really similar. In profile anyway, so I'm not really sure that anything massively changes depending on which one of those you pick. Mm-hmm. And like we saw Holding play 10, 11 games in a row, hasn't been seen since. Although to be fair, I think he was fairly culpable in some early goals that we conceded. And therefore maybe he, quote unquote lost his place, but I don't think we've seen the last of him this season. So in defense, I haven't quite worked out what's going on with that rotation. In attack, I do think it's maybe to some degree dependent on the opposition as well, but I'm not convinced it's a rotation per se, because every time I've thought that, Arteta, how many times have we seen good performance, goes and picks the same team for the next game and against a completely different opponent? So he did that for Leeds and then Benfica. Mm-hmm. Very different opponents to do very different things, but good performance against Leeds, picked exactly the same 11. So I think, I guess the short answer is I don't really know, and I'm struggling to figure it out. And maybe I'm analysing it too much, and maybe it's just completely on what happens in training. And we don't see that, and we know that Arteta puts a lot of emphasis on that. So, but to be honest, I'm not sure that there's a lot that depends on Sunday's game here, because I think at least 9 of these players, maybe 8, at least, will start again on Sunday. So I'm not. I think the rotation was Leicester. I think that was the time where he looked ahead to this block of games, and that was when we saw the proper rotation.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, the rotation was clearly the Leicester game. Do you think that Chambers is unlucky not to be in the team tonight? I have to admit, I thought he was fantastic against Burnley, but you're talking about a very specific kind of team and specific kind of threat. But I think this goes for the Willian Pepe discussion too. I don't think you can play this meritocracy card and be a manager who really wants to live on principles if you don't back those principles up. And I think my only argument with Arteta's selection at the moment is there are players that, in my view, have made a case for either being dropped or being included, respectively. And I don't know that they've been rewarded in that way. I think Pepe, for example, was a little bit, has been a little bit unlucky, because since he got moved to the left, he put in nothing but good performances. He falls out of the lineup for Odegaard on the left. And then he comes in as a sub and is the most dynamic player on the pitch against Burnley in a game we're trying to win, where Willian, I know he played a role in Aubameyang's goal, but other than that, really largely peripheral. Chambers comes in, plays fantastically well. He's dropped, and that one's a little more borderline, obviously, because he's meant to be a squad player. But do you think that Arteta has a bit of a meritocracy problem in terms of wanting it to be an ethos that he communicates but not necessarily commits to in every situation?
Potentially. It depends on how far the players understand and support the rationale. So that's probably governed by the conversations he has with them. So has he sat down with Pepe and said, look, I don't think you're a bad player, it's just this game, I think, maybe this player, or actually you need to do more. It really depends on that. And it depends on, the question there, is Chambers unlucky not to be in the team tonight? Yeah, I think so. Because you're right, Burnley is a very specific type of opponent, and he's, got experience as centre half. But what he did against Burnley was he did the attacking part really well, as well. And he does that tucking into midfield because he's played there and he's quite tidy on the ball. So I do think he's a bit unlucky, actually, not to start tonight. And it's only one game, so it's difficult to overstate. But I kind of came away from that game thinking, okay, he's potentially in the rotation there. And in the summer, he's got 2 years left on his deal, so we've got to make a bit more of a decision about him. And I tend to think we'll probably sell him, and maybe we should. But yeah, I think he is unlucky not to be in the team tonight. And I do think, like I said, it depends on what the players think. But if I were Pepe, I would probably be thinking, this manager just doesn't like me for whatever reason, because, maybe I'm projecting, because that's kind of what I think.
Let me ask you, I mean, do you think that the use of Pepe is a resistance to be reliant on him because he knows something we don't about a plan in the summer to maybe move away, recoup some of the value, and move in another direction? I mean, I'm a big Pepe fan, and I admit the price tag is not something he's probably ever going to live up to. But I think in moments we've seen a player who can do things with the ball at his feet, both delivering a final ball, putting the ball in the back of the net, and beating players that very few players can do. He's got those qualities, and I fully acknowledge he doesn't show them enough. Is there a possibility that Arteta and the club have decided to move in another direction, and so relying on him this season would be a negative in that respect, or is that just trying to make a narrative fit the circumstances?
Yeah, possibly the latter. So don't get me wrong. I think, let's say Arsenal got a good offer for Pepe, whether they invited one or not, I'm sure they'd take it. Sure, they'd take it and move on, and Arteta would get a wide player that he'd prefer. I still think that if Arteta is serious about being, considered one of the great young elite coaches, prove it, coach the player. He got a lot of credit, and we don't know whether this is true or not. It's anecdotal, but we heard that he was a big part of Raheem Sterling and Leroy Sané improving. Here's another one: improve them, coach them. And to be fair, there are signs that has happened. A lot of Pepe's improved performances have, I think you could fairly say, been down to coaching. I think it would be unfair to say that that's nothing to do with the coach. So it is quite a strange one that he's kind of eked this improvement out, but really it's not even, it doesn't even feel like Pepe's a rotation player at the moment. It does just feel like he's a sub.
Yeah.
And that is a bit strange. But then, we've had this before, and then all of a sudden someone just comes in and they play 3 or 4 games in a row, and then they're out again. And again, I find it difficult to get my head around how much this is rotation, how much it's rest, how much it's just Arteta having a look at what he's got, or whether this is just going to be a theme going forward, that instead of rotating game to game, maybe he's the type of manager who thinks, I'll give you 5 games in a row and then I'll drop you out for 5 games. I don't know. And this is the interesting thing about having a manager that's never managed before, because we have no frame of comparison here.
Yeah, I mean, there is definitely, he has a type, doesn't he? I mean, he has a type, I think, of player that he wants in there with the positional football that he really preaches. I mean, we saw it with Martinelli. He starts the first half of the United game. He's clearly not standing at the part of the pitch he wanted. We heard reports after the game that he was constantly coaching Martinelli in that first half. Move up, be here, be there, pulls him, takes him off at halftime and replaces him with someone who will do it. Arteta, I think this is hard for managers, right? When you have a very specific tactical philosophy, you want players that can carry out that philosophy. The question is, how much should you weight that towards talent, right? Can you give up a little tactical adherence for more talent, or is tactical adherence always the apotheosis of what a player should provide? Well, obviously, if you have a bunch of untalented players following the plan, that doesn't work. At a club like Arsenal, you're talking at the margins. Willian is not as good as Pepe quality-wise, in my view, but it's not like he's a bad player. So it's difficult. I want to just quickly get your thoughts, Tim, on the Mislintat interview. It wasn't all about Arsenal, but Sven Mislintat was interviewed by Rafa Honigstein for The Athletic. It's a really interesting interview. I have to admit, there are certain people you're just a sucker for. There are certain arguments you're a sucker for. Like we all are. We all have our biases, and I think when we try to pretend we don't, that's when we let ourselves down. I have a bias for the way he sees football and he's communicating with us about football in this interview. But you look at his track record at Dortmund and you look at what he's doing now with Stuttgart, and they went down. He brings them right back up with a team, assembled relatively inexpensively, young players. They're now mid-table, pushing for maybe a European spot and playing attractive football. He found a coach who was unheralded, who's been really excellent, doing all the kinds of things on a budget that, he was brought in presumably to Arsenal to do. He does talk a little about his track record of players he brought in and obviously defends it. The people he references that he really connected with at Arsenal, Jason Rosenfels, Hasfami, also gone. So it tells you sort of where the allegiances were. I think one of the reasons I'm super disappointed about it is just that it seems like he left to consolidate power in Raul, which in hindsight looks terrible. And I think if we had Mislintat working with Edu and Arteta right now, I'd feel even more confident. But where I'm really sort of interested in this, is... Well, I mean, you could certainly expand on this as much as you want. One of the things that was really interesting that I didn't know is he said he came to Arsenal because of Arsene Wenger, that Arsene Wenger approached him, sold him on the idea, and that he considered Arsenal a legend, was trying to replicate what Arsene was doing at Dortmund, that was actually the inspiration for what Dortmund were trying. So that was something I didn't know. How did you react to this interview and any particular parts of it that stood out to you?
Yeah, sure. So I've not read it.
All right. Well, make up some quotes that you could imagine he would have said and react to those quotes.
I've seen some quotes though, and I guess on him defending his record. Again, this is a really interesting one. Again, I guess this is a binary, right, that we're discussing, because essentially Arsenal did have a choice between Sven and Raul. Now, it could be that neither of them was right. Raul definitely wasn't in the end. That doesn't necessarily, I agree with you in terms of the Sven type path would have been the better one to go down. And I guess it just comes down to how much credence you put in the signings that were made that particular summer. Because actually, when you look at the record of his signings, with the exception of Aubameyang, we've either gotten rid of them or we're trying to get rid of them. Socrates, Lichtsteiner, Mkhitaryan, Torreira, Guendouzi. Now, Torreira, Guendouzi, not bad signings, really. They didn't work, and they probably fell between the cracks of a pair of coaches. Like Emery really liked Guendouzi, and Arteta didn't get on with him. So, it's difficult to judge from one manager that Mislintat didn't work for. And then there were some other. I think they were always expedient purchases like Lichtsteiner and Socrates, and I'm not sure if Leno had anything to do with Mislintat. I can't remember. And then you kind of say, well, how much credit do you give him for Aubameyang? Like everyone, like that wasn't maybe the first time he found Aubameyang for Dortmund, yes, but bringing him to Arsenal, that's not the diamond eye really, but that's kind of fine. We got a really good player, so it's fine. And I guess it's just how much of that summer was just a really difficult time, was compressed. I remember a quote that came out at the time that Arsenal were after men, because they felt the team was a little bit soft, maybe a little bit young in places. So bringing in players like Torreira, Guendouzi, Socrates, and Lichtsteiner as well, like real, like I guess alpha types. A couple of those quite experienced. That was the brief at the time, which didn't really work. But then you ask the question, how much was that brief Mislintat's idea, or how much was he told, this is the brief we want, this is what we want, go and find it? And given that he eventually left over, I guess, a power struggle, I suspect he was told, this is the brief. And he had a really short amount of time, right? Because he came in January, February, and it's like, right, you've got 3 months to find us, a bastard centre-half, a backup right back, and a couple of midfielders who won't take any shit. And while you're there, get us a decent striker. I think I know one. So it's really difficult to judge, but I don't think there was, in that really compressed, short, but very kind of torrid timeline, there's enough to judge Sven on, even if most of his signings, to be honest, didn't really work out. And I'd love to have seen that continue. And let's face it, if it had been another 2 or 3 windows of crap signings, then you get rid of him, but you get someone else like that. If Sven Mislintat, if we could do it all again and not hire Sven Mislintat in 2018, and he was available now, I'm certain that Arsenal would be interested.
It's interesting, right? I mean, he defends the record. It's hard for me because he says, hey, that team that we put together finished with 70 points, 5th place, and a European final. When you say it that way, it doesn't sound so bad. But what we know is there was a big, long, unbeaten run in that season that was not supported by metrics. We kind of lucked out a bit, and I feel like Arteta's had it the opposite way, which is in this positive run, we've kind of been a bit unlucky. And it's those little margins, a lot of red cards, a lot of penalties, things just going for you and not going for you. Football's cruel that way. Look, Sven defends his bad signings by saying they were there for leadership. So Socrates and Lichtsteiner, he says, they were there to be leaders of men. All right, that's easy to say when it didn't work out, but Lichtsteiner was free, and he said, look, I had attacking fullbacks in Kolasinac, Bellerin, Maitland-Niles. Lichtsteiner was a solidly defensive guy and a senior experienced pro who had won everything. I wanted him there to try to emphasize the defensive side of the game to players that needed that kind of education. Those things are harder to evaluate, right?
Yeah.
His eye for youth was good, but a lot of that didn't work out. He's got Mavropanos with him now, excelling, and a player that we may ultimately want back. So we'll see what the case is there. I think that's enough of that. Let's do this. Are you ready for a little bit of Predictatron? Review the Predictatron. We did our Predictatron the other day. Always ready for Predictatron. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, what we do every season is we pick a moment in time and we just go ahead and predict the outcome of all the games, of all the rivals. And we did that on Patreon the other day, and if you'd like to sign up for our Patreon, we'd love to have you. And if you would like to not sign up for our Patreon, we would also love you to do that as well. The fact that you're here means we love you, and either way, you're the greatest, so thank you. So having said that, very important message. What I'm going to pop up onto the screen now is our final table. Okay? And this is in fact the final table that we predicted. Everybody see that? All right, Tim, let's run through it. You had Chelsea finishing 3rd.
Yep, happy with that.
Liverpool and Spurs on 66. Goal difference comes down to whether Spurs are in the Champions League or the Europa League. Leicester dropping off to 65. Arsenal, 62. West Ham, 60. Everton, 58. And Villa, 46. You feel good about that?
So looking at that, I reckon I've done Villa. But as much as I do think Villa are going to drop away, I do think I've done Villa, like I've done Villa an injustice there. Like I don't think we're going to finish 16 points ahead of them. No. So but largely the positions yeah, I mean, I'm not happy with Spurs nearly getting into the Champions League. If they miss out on goal difference, I'd be delighted with that. That'd be hilarious. But like, I'm not necessarily happy with that. Yeah. Like I do. Like before I did the Predictatron, my thing was I think Arsenal are going to finish 8th, really. To be honest, so I mean, there it's 7.
Clive's picks there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I want to live in Clive's world. Put it that way. That's that would be much better. But he's only got Arsenal with 2 more points than I have. So like he's only been like one. Like I've gone for a draw and he's gone for a win somewhere. So like I've been quite positive there as well. But I do think we will have a relatively strong finish to the season. I just, perhaps naively, I think if we just keep playing this way, then maybe some of this, like, there has been some bad luck, hasn't there? Like, that's not just me being an Arsenal fan thinking our luck sucks. Like, it has sucked a little bit. Like, I do think that, you know, we're broadly on the right path. I still do worry about the amount of goals in the team, though. I still think, like tonight, there's only one player in that team I'd put any money on to score a goal, and I do think that's an issue.
Yeah, Clive's going to be joining momentarily. Jessica's about to come in as well. I don't know why Paul is here because he's an hour late, and now he seems to think he can just show up whenever he wants. So we're going to have a chat about that momentarily. I do want to just say thank you to you, Tim, for being here. And we'll be talking to you in the instant reaction, I imagine.
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So we will let you go and talk to you over on Patreon. Thanks. Tim's on Twitter. Roberto, thanks, bud.
My pleasure as always.
Okay, here we go. We do have Jessica. We're going to bring her on now. You can find Jessica at It's Justino on Twitter, and she hosts She Knows Arsenal. Clive will be joining momentarily. But let's bring Jess on. Hello, Jess. I can't hear you. You know what? No, maybe if I unmute you. Oh, there we go. Yeah. All right. This is a professional stream, my friend. Well, you do more of these than I do, so, you know, what do I know? Hey, do you notice I tried to youngify myself? I got a ring light. I got a new camera. I got high and tight with a little bit of the gray blend away.
You look good today. The light suits you very well. Keep that on. Keep that on.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I will not be doing an OnlyFans to compliment the Patreon. Thank you for the thought, but no, we'll not be doing that. Hi, Jess. Yay, Jess. Everybody wants Clive, though, Jess. No offense. Everybody wants Clive. We do want Clive.
I know. I want Clive.
Well, Clive. Ask for Clive, and hopefully you shall receive. We're going to get back to the table momentarily, but what we're going to do first is bring Paul on and have a word. Let's have a word. Paul.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good. My link just showed up for the StreamYard thing.
It was sent 2 hours ago.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I just want to read you a message. I offered everybody a time to be on this stream, and Paul took 6 p.m. UK.
I did.
Paul, what time is it now?
It's UK was, I have no idea, 2 p.m.?
7 p.m. UK.
7.
So that is not 6. And the challenge you were presenting me is that I have Jess and Clive right now. So let me ask you this. Can you come back in 30?
Yeah.
You don't mind?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, come back 30 that way, because 4 is too much for this whole. It gives me like what's the thing that you get when there's little holes in something? There's like a phobia.
Cheese.
Of that. No, the phobia when somebody in the chat will know. It's a phobia of like holes and things. Like when the new iPhone came out, there's oh my God, Paul is being booted. He is being booted, but he'll be back. That's not Clive. I do know, but Clive is coming. That's not Clive. But yes, Clive is coming. Paul, you'll be back in 30. Sound good?
Yep. Bye.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. Bye. Okay. That felt very rude, but to be fair, holiophobia is not the fear of the holes. Here it is. This is it. Yeah. Trypophobia. I think that's it. I think that is it, actually. Stop talking and bring in Clive. Well, I mean, believe me, if he shows up, I will bring him in. I love Paul. I want to be clear about something. I adore Paul. Paul and I were on the podcast before Clive and Tim ever showed up, and I adore him. So, yeah, he'll be back. I'm just trying to organize this by time, and so we can get Clive in. So, all right, let's do this, Jess. Let's bring up the ridiculousness that is this final Premier League table. Here we go. So this is what we predicted the other day. Jess, whose table do you think looks more accurate? I have Arsenal finishing 7th on 63 points, but ahead of Spurs. Tim has Arsenal finishing 7th on 62 points behind Spurs, who are in a goal difference battle for Champions League. Clive has Arsenal, and I shit you not, in a battle of goal difference for 4th place. Now, here is the interesting thing. There is actually only 1 point between me and Clive and 1 point between me and Tim on where Arsenal finish. It's the rest of the table that spills out. And doing this exercise, when we went game by game, made me realize that it is actually... everything is still there. Even if you disagree with what these tables look like, I think it makes you realize that there's so much chaos that can still possibly play out when you run through the fixtures that it is silly to presume that we can't still have something to play for this season. So how do you feel about these predictions and which one might wind up looking the most accurate?
When I'm looking at it, I think probably Tim's to me looks the most realistic to me, because I think Chelsea is on the up. I think they'll make it up a little bit further and Leicester will drop off. Spurs are on the up as well, as much as I hate to say it. And yeah, we'll be somewhere around 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to make it as high as Clive thinks, but there is everything to play for. It's just a matter of, can we put 4 to 5 games together in a good run? Arteta spoke about that in his press conference, that right now we have to get a run going, 4 or 5 games, like a winning run. We've yet to be able to accomplish that. But if we can do that, I could see us somewhere between like 6th and 7th, somewhere in there, and I think that would be good considering all the ups and downs that we've had this season. So, yeah, but I would say Tim's, to me, looks most realistic.
Yeah, I mean, I think we went through it. So just in case anybody's saying, like, how did you arrive at this nonsense? We went through it. We literally had every single game, right? And we each read out that the result of every game. So we did it painstakingly, game by game by game. What I'll do, actually, is I will... I'll bring one up just to kind of give you an example of what we predicted here, because this is how we did it. I'll bring up Arsenal, for example, because that's one that I think we actually care about. So we'll remove that. Stop that screen. This is all very exciting while I do this, but here, let's bring this one up. Application window. Yep, this one. That's the one we want. And boom. Okay, so this is what we predicted for Arsenal. And you can see, like, I had us dropping points, losing to Spurs the weekend. Yeah. But, as you go through this, what's pretty clear is that when we get through the Spurs, West Ham, Liverpool run, it's go time. And I think we all feel pretty bullish about the back half of that run, Jess. But what's going to determine whether we finish above these other teams, unfortunately, is that Spurs, West Ham, Liverpool run. Because I had us taking 3 off West Ham, losing to Liverpool and Spurs. Once you do that, it's very hard to get us above both of them and into a European place. So is that really it? It boils down to, this next 3 games in the league is really going to clarify for us where we can finish, regardless of what we do from there on.
Yeah, pretty much. I've been calling for this the entire, pretty much since the Wolves game, is that the teams that are above us, we have to take points off of them, but we also have to beat the teams below us. We're in a position where we need to take points off of everybody. So when I'm looking from basically Sheffield down, I'm liking what I'm seeing, because quite frankly, we should beat all of those teams. But look what we did against Burnley. But we showed that we can beat some of the bigger teams like Leicester. These teams are not unbeatable. They're just, some of them are in better form than others. But I think that we should beat West Ham. I think against a Liverpool side that's really, really struggling, I don't want to see us sitting back. I don't want to see us playing scared, because this is going to be our chance to beat them. So for me, it's just, when you drop points against Wolves, when you give up early goals against Aston Villa, when you do silly things like that, you have to make it up somewhere. And if we think we're going to be getting anywhere in this league, from now until the end, we have to start putting away teams, whether they're above us or below us. That's where we are.
Yeah, well said. I agree with that. Well, guess what? It's the big moment. Clive has arrived, and you can find him at Clive PAFC on Twitter. Hello, superstar. How you doing?
You always do this, don't you? You always like to embarrass me.
Embarrass you or just be accurate?
How you doing? You good? Hello, Jess.
Yeah.
I've never met you before.
I've never met Clive. Like this is, I'm like meeting my idol. I love Clive. I'm dying. I love it.
Stop.
Yes.
Don't start it like him. It's making me feel bad. So, yeah.
Clive, I got to level with you. One of the things that frustrated me about the last time you were on camera, that we were on camera together, a lot of comments about the gun show that you had going on, the size of the arms, the quality of the guns. And, frankly, I am such an insecure man that I can only take so much of the compliments flowing your way. They love your glasses. They love everything about you. But you're really here to talk about football. But do you want to comment on your
Nope.
your arms or your glasses or your Hugo Boss clothes or any of the other stuff?
Nope. Just want to talk football, mate.
Just want to talk football. All right. Well, can we do a little lineup freak out with you then?
Yeah, why not?
All right, let's do a little lineup freak out. And Jess, obviously, we haven't gotten to this yet either, so we will do it. I've got the lineup on the screen. Get your comments in. We'll also do some Would You Rather together. Clive, the big news, obviously, the big talking point that people are going to want to talk about is the Willian Pepe thing. Yeah. I think you've said on the pod quite a bit that Pepe has played well enough to deserve the chance. And I'm curious, I'm not asking you to say, I don't like Willian, I prefer Pepe, but just from a meritocracy standpoint, from Arteta wanting players to feel that their performances are rewarded, do you think Arteta's undermining himself on that front a little bit?
Yeah, we'll talk a bit about it today, won't we, Jess, online? And so I think we're getting it wrong, right? So it's not a Willian Pepe thing. It's a Saka Willian thing, right? Because the way we're playing is with 2 double 10s, right? And so on the interior, you got Odegaard on the right half space and Willian on the left half space. And so building up in a square in the middle with Partey and Xhaka in behind, so you got your box. I like that. And I like that shape. That's good. And so Willian in the interior is, that's where he's best. In the interior, receiving at the half turn, turning around, spinning it out to Tierney or Aubameyang, who tends to hang left. And you have Odegaard and Saka on the right-hand side. And you underlap with a right back. So really, what you should be thinking in this system is, could Saka easily play in the left half space? Well, we all know he can. And does Pepe really deserve to be on the right, up high on the right wing? In my opinion, he should. I think he's a big goal threat. I think Saka's best ability is the last pass, right? His goals are there, but not quite there. So basically, my view is it's Saka inside rather than Willian inside when we play our best team. Right, so that's how I see it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, Clive, you're better than Bitcoin, apparently. By the way, that's big for you. Big for you.
I don't know what that is. Not interested. I know about one thing, by the way. Anything else?
I'm going to take this comment though. Elliot might just be a Gen Z. I'm not even adjacent to Gen Z. I'm not even millennial. I can't even be a damn millennial, for God's sake. Well, we got a drink order. Thank you to True Gunner. Awesome stream. Here we go. King Clive, thank you. Get your order in, though. Next time you tip, please get your order in. We can't get you a drink for your tip if you don't tell us what drink you're having. I am going to have a hell of an old-fashioned momentarily. Let me tell you that.
Do you agree with my thought process around how we're building up and setting up?
Yeah. Well, okay, so let's talk football. Sorry, Clive. I know that's what you're really here for. Jess, As far as the lineup goes, for me, I'm not too freaked out about it. I think it's enough. And I think if I felt confident that what was happening here is that Pepe is being kept for the weekend, to really hurt Spurs, who I think can be hurt in that right back position, especially. Is that Aurier, who's probably going to be their right back at the weekend? Would that be who will probably face?
Or Doherty.
Yeah, I think in both cases, I think Pepe could cause a lot of trouble if he's playing from the left. On the right, he can too. The problem is I don't have the faith that that's why this is happening. So, if I told you right now Pepe starts at the weekend, would that make the Willian selection tonight feel just more natural to you? Is the reason we're more worked up about it is because we don't really see Pepe having a path to starts, even though he does impress when he gets on the pitch?
Well, I mean, I think it would make us feel better, but at this point, I think we can kind of rule that out. I think there's been times where we've been like, okay, Pepe is going to be rested, and then we realized he wasn't. So I don't even really think about it this way. I said earlier that I felt Willian was going to start, and I think this is just who Arteta thinks is his best lineup in general. He'd rather have the technical security, and he trusts Willian more than he probably trusts Pepe, and Saka's a shoe-in on the right-hand side. It's not what I would do. I'm not as stressed out about it as I used to be. It's just, it kind of is what it is. When Pep first got Mahrez, it was a very similar thing where he had to learn the system, and then basically over time he became a more important player because he fit in the system. I think right now Pepe is just kind of like an outlier because Arteta's really trying to gain that structure. So I think it's going to take Pepe a while to become more influential in Arteta's mind, but he does look good when he comes on. It's something about Willian that just Arteta likes in this system, and it makes sense. I just think Willian's been poor, so we can't see it, but I think overall we can kind of tell what he's trying to do. It's something we're just going to have to live with at this point, I think.
Yeah, maybe that is just the case. Well, Clive, let's talk about the pattern of play that we expect tonight. Like, one thing we were talking about a little bit is the way a coach motivates a team. I think we have unfortunately seen it be too common with Arsenal to take weaker opposition lightly, to start slow, especially with the derby at the weekend, to play within yourself. And that can be very dangerous in Europe, obviously. We saw that a little bit against Benfica. Do you think that the fact that we crashed out to Olympiacos last season gives Arteta the perfect bulletin board material to basically say, guys, this is the team that kicked you out of Europa League last season at the round of 32. It was an embarrassment. We have to right that wrong. We need to show them what we're really about and get them fired. I mean, I don't like to lean into these sort of soft factors. Ultimately, right? Like I prefer to look at the data and the quality and all that. But like, players are people, and we've seen these people come out and start slow. Look at our last few games against, Burn. Look where we've given goals away early on, right? So I guess, do you think that he can create an advantage for himself by leaning into the frustration of this team being the one that knocked us out last season and using that to get a faster start tonight?
Yeah, even more so than him. Look at the players. I mean, we all were heartbroken this time last year. And if you're a player, anything about you, you're going back to that stadium and you've got to want to deliver and make sure this time. We were a bit lackadaisical and we had a lot of complacency in the second leg. None of us saw that coming. And even when they scored, we managed to fashion another chance, which tells you there was a quality gap. And we did what's been a trend. We beat ourselves, didn't we? Well, we beat ourselves when it really counted. And we have this ability to derail. And that maybe drives some of the selection processes. I listen to people talk about Arteta being structured and defensive and cautious. And I just think, hey, look, coaching, when you coach, you're coaching structure. So let's get with it, right? Everyone does it. So, but I do think the Willian selection maybe tells you about the fear factor, about losing the ball in central areas. I think that's really key. I think Olympiacos play like a 4-2-3-1, so they have a front four diamond like we do, and they have a rotational type front four diamond. So if I look at Gabriel playing and Bellerin playing, who I would have selected for this game, by the way, you need a mobile back four that can go with runners off shoulders. So I think that's before I see the team, I'm not seeing Olympiacos, close. I just read some things. Before I see the team, I thought, yeah, I'm happy with Gabriel and I'm happy with Bellerin. I'm all for certain players on certain days. What I'm not for is selection criteria where I feel there's some form of favoritism in place, where I think maybe somebody who the manager has signed is getting more shade than the guy that's, maybe didn't sign. He's trying to coach into some sort of shape. Now, when we go 1-0 down this game, if we do, your emotions take over, right? So, and I bet you there'll be so many tweets about Pepe coming flying through. It tells you what's really the answer. The answer is Pepe is one of our better players and he should play. And if you've got to put Saka on the inside, close to Tierney and rip down at left-hand side, do it to make sure you've got your best, most dangerous players on the pitch. I just don't think he sees the game in phases, maybe in thirds. I think for the first couple of thirds, he's thinking, you know what? I want to know what I'm getting. And I build into the game that way. And don't forget, this is the first of 2 games, right? And I keep giving these excuses, but if you don't play him Sunday, there's going to be trouble.
Yeah.
So that's how I see it. You can't keep doing this. You have to reward the player in full.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I mean, the only question here, Jess, I've got a problem with, I've got a lot of problems, guys, let's be honest. But I have a problem with the Olympiacos lineup. And I'm wondering if you can kind of walk me through it a little bit. I look at the lineup, and it's fine. I don't know a lot of the players, but I think they have registered and started an ineligible player. And I don't know the rules on this or how they're getting away with it. You guys are waiting for it, aren't you?
Yeah.
How have Olympiacos started Jan Mvia when he plays for Arsenal? I don't understand that. We signed Jan Mvia, so how can... By the way, real quick, thanks to Matt Bobbs. Really appreciate it. Love you, man. You did not get your drink order in, though. And Adisa Cunningham... do fancy Willian structural predictability is a weakness? We'll get to this in just one moment. Let me... here, we got a drink order. Marlon Brando, make it a double. It's coming up. Thank you. That's how it's done. Jess, right before we answer the question, do you have any thoughts on Jan Mvia being registered ineligible player since he's an Arsenal player and has been for years?
I mean, how many players have we had like that over the years? I remember when Higuain was on the plane, on his way to London Colony to sign. So... he's just one of those blasts from the past, and hopefully it doesn't come to bite us in the butt, but I don't think he will. I mean, how old is he?
I don't know, but I put 5 pounds on Solomon Kalou scoring a winner for us tonight, so we'll see if that comes through. Real quick, Jess, do fancy Willian structure and predictability is a weakness while Arteta thinks it's a strength? I think this is really the key. I think this is the ultimate thing with Arteta, and we talked about it earlier, and Clive can maybe weigh in on this as well. Arteta clearly prioritizes his tactical instruction and his structure. We saw it when Martinelli got taken off at halftime against United. So is this something that we just have to accept, that sort of like a Pep, if you can't be in the right places, if you don't occupy the space he wants, if he doesn't think you can execute the tactical philosophy, your quality is not going to be enough to get you on that pitch? Is that just the kind of manager we have right now?
I think so. I mean, when I look at Arteta, I see shades of Pep, and we've all heard the stories about how Pep would take even the world-class players out of the lineup if they didn't do exactly what the system called for. And I think that what we're seeing with Arteta is that there's some players that can drop 2s in some games and could also be 10s in another game, whereas he'd rather just stick with the 5s and 6s, the more average players, so he can get a little bit of consistency. I think that's what he values. It's pretty much the difference between playing Dani Ceballos and Xhaka. Xhaka will probably be around a 6 every single game, whereas sometimes Ceballos could be a 2, sometimes Ceballos can be an 8, but he'd rather get that consistency. And I see the same thing with Willian in comparison to Pepe. I think Pepe's been a lot more consistent, which is what we want to see, but I still think Arteta has doubts about his ability to perform at that level day in and day out. So for him, he's looking at Willian probably like he practices well. He's, a seasoned professional. So I know I'm going to get a 7 in his mind out of 10 every single game from him. We haven't seen it, but clearly Arteta trusts that he's going to get to that level at some point.
We've gotten a drink order for a Sonogo on the rocks. I presume that the way you make that is you take all the right ingredients and then just throw them into the kitchen and hope that they form a drink in some respect, and things spill all over the place. You have no idea. Some of the drink gets in the cup, some doesn't. So yeah, that's how I think that'll happen. Clive, I'm going to bring something up to the screen here, but in order to do that, I got to get rid of this banner because I am the consummate professional, as we all have known for quite some time. These are the lineups, and it might be a little bit hard to read given how this is looking. But Jan Mvia in the midfield, interesting. Matthew Valbuena, I think we've faced him before. He caused us a little bit of trouble. But I'm looking at the lineup for Olympiacos, and I'm having sweet, sweet dreams of Socrates Papadopoulos facing Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang's left channel runs. Talk to me about how many hat tricks Aubameyang can get tonight, facing off against Socrates Papadopoulos.
Well, what I'm thinking, really, we spent many weeks debating if Aubameyang was a centre forward, didn't we? And suddenly,
no. To be clear, we were never debating it. Some people might have been debating it. Aubameyang is a centre forward. That's been pretty clear to me. But go for it. Sorry.
Centre forward playing for Arsenal, shall we say?
Yeah.
The end of last season, we had some highlight moments with him hanging off the left and Liverpool style off that left-hand side and Pepe off the right-hand side. And that's changed. We haven't got that central pivot no more. So now we've got Aubameyang in almost like a free centre-forward role. And that's why Willian's playing, right? You want your central structure in the central zones that allows Aubameyang to go where he likes. So you're not pinning him down. You're actually saying, yes, you can do just what you like, be a bit more central. If you want to go left, it's okay because we've got these 2 number 10s in there. Saka, you keep the right-hand side high. Tierney, get alongside him when you can, forces him inside into the zones we want him to be. And it sort of looks good, doesn't it? It sort of looks good on paper. I'm a bit, I still feel the right-hand side could do a little bit more, I don't know, in the right-back situation. I just feel it's a little bit light, but it's not the end of the world. You know, it really isn't. And some of the things I don't like are coachable. They're not in the player. They're in, you just need to do this on this day. You know, and so yeah. Whereas Tierney, it's almost got a freer role. It's almost easier for him because what he needs to do and what the team ask him to do, he does naturally. What we're asking Bellerin to do is not a natural movement for him. He has to restrict himself, has to restrict his primary movement, which is movement, right? And that's what he wants to do. He wants to go early. So we saw Cam Chambers get almost man of the match at Burnley by doing half the work that Bellerin does. You know, and we had a lot more structure and a lot more positional discipline from that role, right? So so I'm looking forward to it. I am pretty confident, but you saw my predictions earlier, so I'm pretty confident in most games until the game kicks off, and then we have to debate them.
I took out the what's it called? The lineup thing that Google had posted because they have us in a 4-3-3 with Odegaard on the right. It's not going to be. We know it's the 4-2-3-1, so ignore that. Alexander, who gave a tip, and we love you, and did not give a drink order, so no drink for you. I cannot emphasize we can't serve you if we don't get your order in. Any football books you recommend, Clive? Any from behind you? P.S. I love you.
I have got a few football books behind me. You'd laugh when I say I try not to read too much about football, not too much of the technical stuff, because if you do, I don't think you can form your own ideas. So I tend to read like short coaching articles or things like that, and rather than say read sort of things like, you know, Pep or anything like Renus Michels and stuff like that. I tend not to do that too much because it blocks the brain, right? So, but hey.
Okay, well that's fair. I mean, I would say that for me, what blocks the brain is just the thoughts inside of it. So I try to get rid of those. And once I do that, everything works out pretty well. Jess, in terms of the way you expect the game to go tonight and the key players that you have an eye on, I mean, I think Odegaard has been tantalizing and interesting, but what's really exciting to me, we haven't seen a ton of Partey and Odegaard together, and we haven't seen Partey in a big spot since the United game, really. This is what he's brought in for, right? On the big nights, dominate the center of the pitch, control from back to front, regain, win it, get it moving forward, get it to Odegaard between the lines. I think these two players playing together now, having practiced together quite a bit, and Partey maybe starting to put together his, the run of form that we need and the connection with these players. I think that those two players could be big for us tonight. How do you see maybe who the star players might be, and in particular, what Partey and Odegaard can bring to a big night together?
Yeah, I think what we've been missing with Odegaard is having somebody who can dominate the space in the midfield, be able to get the ball and pass it to him and progress the ball. And we saw a little bit of that against Burnley, but it wasn't fully realized because I just think the team in general went flat after a certain amount of time. So what I'd kind of like to see in this game is just us really attack them early and try to get a goal really quick. We've actually been getting goals quickly lately, which is a good sign. And I think from there, just continue on. We have to get at least 3 goals. But yeah, with Thomas Partey, I'm a big fan of him. I think he's going to come good. He's the best midfielder that we have at the club. And I would expect him to dominate that area. They do have a midfielder named Matty Kamara that's, another dominating space type of box-to-box midfielder. So having somebody similar to him and Partey that's better than him is good for us. So I think what I'm just looking forward to is something similar to the way we started against maybe Wolves, but with goals. I want us to start out quick and get them on the back foot. My biggest fear is that maybe Olympiacos will sit back in a low block and try to make us break them down. If that happens, then the game is a little bit different. But then we have Odegaard and we have Saka and we have Willian too. So I think we're prepared for either way. If they come at us, we can beat them on the break. If they sit deep, we can break them down. but we have to get goals early and really no individual mistakes. I know that there's a defender back there.
No individual mistakes. I mean, we got that in the bag. When would that ever happen?
But they also have that one defense. Well, they have Socrates back there, but they have another defender, that Baugh. If he's that tower, that 6'5" guy that was there last season,
He's good.
yeah, we need to not give up a lot of corners. We're better at defending corners, but I wouldn't want to see that, So yeah, that's how I kind of expect things to go. I hope we score early.
Yeah, I mean, look, Clive, I know you are really excited about Thomas Partey, and you're really excited when he joined, as was I. You were almost as excited as I was. I think it's fair to say.
Absolutely.
Look, if there's one thing I'm not ashamed to do, is pretend like I never said any of the stuff I said, because how would you ever find it? How would you ever know? Clive, is this a night for Thomas Partey? I mean, he's a senior player, heart of his prime. He's played deep into the Champions League. He's got the knockout European experience. He hasn't had the chance to really dominate the midfield for us since he arrived, unfortunately, due to injury. I feel like these are the nights where this is the kind of player that can really make his mark. That midfield looks a little lightweight for them, and I feel like he needs to step up and really make his presence known tonight.
Yeah, every time he plays, he's going to try to dominate, and he's got a lovely, graceful way of going around the pitch and trying to just work the ball through midfield. And I do like his style of football. I think he's got a lot of talent. Funny enough, when I first did my scouting of him, obviously the Liverpool game last year, Atletico Madrid game, if you watch that game closely, which I did many times, I thought it was a fantastic game at Anfield. Watch the game, watch the last 20, and he was absolutely gassed. He was tired. And that was a high intense game, probably the last game. There was a crowd in actually at Anfield. And I remember saying to my mate Charles, he was asking me, what do you think of Partey? I said, I love him, technically brilliant, gets it, got all the clubs in the bag. But one thing that worries me about him is his fitness and just general fitness. And I just don't think he's been tested. And people are excited about him. But I promise you, if he gets through pre-season next year, we're going to see an amazing player beyond what we're seeing even at the moment. And there's been some little snippets I've seen. And even when he actually got injured, I think it was against Villa when he chased down the goalkeeper, I think it was. That alone, that movement, that speed, that dominance, we haven't really seen since. He's getting through games at the moment. And that's what we need him to do. And even at 60%, 70%, he's still very, very good. I'm interested to see how he goes with Odegaard. They like the idea of him. Real Madrid lefty, star young player. He's got a little bit to do to convince some people. He's finding his shooting boots now. We all know he can see a pass. There's more to come every single game, but he's got to convince people that he's for real. So that little link there is going to be interesting in how he gets Saka going. I want to see him shoot a little bit more, be a bit more robust. And we got to ask ourselves, if we're looking to develop this team, we got to ask ourselves, is that the level we want to go for? And it's early for him at the moment. But we mustn't get seduced by these exotic players coming in that have the potential. Eventually, we have to make the step. And we need a much more certainty in our thought process when it comes to players. So that's where my head is at the moment.
Yeah, well, I mean, where you're headed is important because as the audience wants you to know, you are a legend. I think we know that. Let's do this. Let's bring in, look, legendary status doesn't come to everybody. But it comes naturally to Paz in My Pants, also known as Paul. He is joining us. Hey, Paz, welcome back.
Hello.
I don't think people appreciate that I kicked you off the stream earlier.
Didn't look good.
I don't think that it wasn't great for the dynamic between us, and we haven't even really been arguing lately. But yeah, I mean, to be fair, I'm trying to keep all of this. See, the four box, what is this, CNN or something? I feel like I need to ask you guys how you feel about the passing of the bill on the aid and the checks and the stuff. This 4 box it feels like a bit much, even for my renewed internet. So, hi, Paul. We get a hi, Paul. Jess, I am unfortunately going to have to, one's got to go. And if I get rid of Clive, then literally I'll have people outside my home with with all kinds of items and things.
See what
and
he does to me,
signs.
Jess? He just embarrasses me all the time.
But I'm almost kind of like, yeah, kick me out because Clive has to stay. I'm about to like get off and then watch you guys talk more. So
Yeah.
it's perfectly fine.
Well, Jess, I mean, I hope that you are a patron and will be listening for the instant reaction pod at full time.
I am. I
Good
am.
stuff.
Yes.
You're a legend.
We are.
The answer was there all along. Get rid of Elliot. Why do we think about that? What, the one Gen Z guy on the podcast? Get rid of me? What? My young hip self? No, we can't do that. Jess, thank you so much. We got to do something again real soon, okay? Because I just, obviously, it's a pleasure to have you on, and we'll have you on the regular pod. How's that sound?
Yeah, for sure. That sounds good. You guys can follow me at It's Jessinho. I will be rage tweeting throughout this entire game. Clive, it's been awesome. Like, I'm so happy to be on the stream with you. I feel privileged. And thank you, Elliot. And thank you, Paul. We haven't really
Paul
talked,
didn't do it.
but
Don't take. We take the Paul thanks back. All right, follow
Sorry, bye,
Jess
you
on
guys.
It's Jessinho, and please check out her awesome show, which is both video and audio because she is better than us, and it is She Knows Arsenal. Thanks, Jess. Chat soon.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, that was Jessica Black. You can find her at It's Jessinho. Got a lot of noise coming from the man who I've just invited on the podcast. It's just
classic
so
Paul.
damn classic Paul. Hey, can I be on? Can I be on? Hey, look, guys, I'm going to lean into this question just real quick because it means the world to me. Look, I say this all the time on the pod. If you do want to sign up for Patreon, please do it. But if you can't, aren't interested, don't even like us, like all of that, the fact that you're here, the fact that you listen to a pod or watch a live stream, like we just love you. We're thrilled to have the chat. We're thrilled to have the interaction. We're thrilled to have you listen anywhere. We do the Patreon to get more stuff out there. We do scouting videos and rewatch videos and instant reaction episodes at the full time of every game. There'll be one today. And if you want to join us for that, we'd love to have you aboard. There's also a Discord that we're in regularly, and Clive is in there defending his position, mostly just taking accolades. Paul and I are defending our positions and frequently yelling at each other. The link is below. If you do want to sign up, it's patreon.com. Wait for it. It's scrolling / Arsenal Vision podcast. There it is. But if you don't want to sign up, again, no big deal. Point is, we'd love to have you, and we just love having you here regardless. So, Paul, my man, getting the love. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We're going to try to do more of this now that my internet is fixed. That was really holding us back before, so internet seems fine. Guys, internet.
Yeah, it's good.
It's wild. Paul,
Great flash. Yeah.
okay, so while the last hour and a half of the podcast has been us raging about the lineup. I'm kidding, but do you have any strong feelings one way or the other? Other than the
No.
Willian pick, is there anything that you think you might have done differently? I feel like right now, really ironically, other than just Willian or Pepe, the most interesting debate is about the center back pairing.
Yeah, I mean the Willian one's interesting. I probably would have. I was thinking about it. I would have guessed Willian, but I'd be more excited about Pepe. But Willian tends to stand in the spaces and do the movements the manager wants. So, but as Scott pointed out earlier, we have 5 subs, so there's every opportunity for Pepe to influence this game from 30 minutes onwards, if that's in the manager's thinking, and hopefully that's the plan. Bring Pepe on when they think they've held us, when they think they've got a kind of a balance in the game, knock them off kilter, and go at them with a Pepe attack, which will be fine. A good 1-2 punch, settle them into a lull with Willian, then smack them over the head with a hammer with Pepe. So I had a look at their lineup. And I went back and had a look at some of their previous lineups against PSV. So this looks like it might be their 4-2-3-1, with Kamara as the number 10, Jan M. Villa in there for kicks, and old-time memories for nearly transfers and Arsenal Twitter. So Valbuena off the right, I think, Bruma off the left. So I get Socrates, of course, in the pairing. So I guess 4-2-3-1-ish, and they play this way quite often. So they did a 4-3-3 against Man City when they were trying to hold on in the group stages, but it doesn't seem to be quite that set up here. So hopefully it should be a good open game. They're not great, but they're still dangerous. They scored 4 goals against PSV. And as we've seen, lots of teams we should squash in Europe can bite you in the ass. So I guess my other thought is I hate the first leg of these ties because they kind of don't mean anything unless you absolutely trash the other side.
We won away first leg last season, right?
Yep,
And I mean,
yep.
all the good that did us. So I mean, it shows you that these things.
It's all about the second leg.
Yeah. Well, the good news is we get to play both legs at home, right? So
Yeah. True.
that helps. That's a joke that isn't funny. Let's do this real quick. Since we're together, let's do a derby preview real quick. Clive, I'm glad we're playing Olympiacos in the sense that, like I said, I think Arteta has the perfect way to fire up the troops to say, this is the team that knocked you out last season. Go get your revenge. And hopefully they go out strong. There are 5 subs that he can use tonight, so it is a chance to keep it fresh. The derby this weekend, though, it has a lot of significance in terms of not just it being the derby, but in terms of everything's still feeling very up in the air in terms of how the table can finish. And what I'm going to actually do real quick is pop this back up one more time so people, not just so people will laugh at what we predicted in our wild optimism. But Clive, you actually have us finishing in a tie for 4th on goal difference. The irony is that might sound hilarious, but actually between you, me, and Tim, we're only 1 point each apart on the Arsenal final points totals. And you can see 2 of us have us finishing above Spurs, and Tim, as the resident Spurs fan, has them finishing above us. So is this derby the rare situation where a lot of the season for both teams pivots? I mean, this really feels like it's got a lot riding on it. And to what extent does Arteta have to have an eye on that tonight?
I hope he doesn't have an eye on it. Not yet. Hey, every single derby game is one that makes your stomach just flip over, right? So I do think it is important. They're always important, but I don't think the league. People say the league doesn't lie, but if ever it's lying, it's this year for me. I don't think we're as bad as the league table is actually saying, and if we are, it's down to us and a bit of bad luck with discipline, which I say. A bit unfortunate a couple of those occasions, but some that done it to ourselves. And definitely a bit of bad luck on finishing, and what we do in both boxes, a bit of stupidity. I mean, even the Pepe chance of the weekend, why wouldn't that just hit the crossbar and go in? Things like that are just really. And even on the Pepe's first chance, if you watch it closely, he gets a little nick of the defender that's coming over. Otherwise, we know he's pretty good at side-footing those passes in, and we need something to go for us, a bit of a free goal sometimes to get us going. So Spurs in a little vein of form with 3 wins on the trot. They're getting their old bodies back together, and they got a lot of strength up front. And now we see Bale scoring and Dele Alli running around like a 3-year-old, and Kane doing his thing, and Son just waiting to nick him behind on that right-hand channel. We all get a little bit nervous. And to be fair, I understand that. But I do think, hopefully tonight, we can get people like Tierney off the pitch. I think that's really important, I think he's a player we're asking to do 2 roles. We're asking to be our left player in our 5 channels, but also be our left back. I think it's very important we get him off the pitch at some point, do the job, get him off the pitch, save his legs for the weekend. I think that's key. And so Spurs mean something. Tonight means a lot. If we get the win tonight, which I hope we will, I think it'll boost us for the weekend. If we get the win at the weekend, I think we could take off. I really do. I think we need the confidence from it. Because even though I think we are close and we've had good wins against some of the bigger teams, we haven't beaten Spurs for a little while, it feels to me. And we need to sort them out. Yeah.
I mean, it is tough for me, Paul, because I like here's the funny thing, right? We could lose tonight by 2 goals and still go through. I'm not saying that that's what you want to happen or that that's what would happen, but nothing can be decided tonight. Losing a derby, you talk about taking the wind out of your sails. Like we've been playing better, and yet we've had these accidents. I think Arsene would have called them accidents, right? The Wolves game is an accident. The Villa game is an accident. The Burnley game is an accident. But you have enough accidents, it stops being an accident. My daughter spills her milk every single dinner, and at some point, it's not an accident anymore. It starts to become pretty frustrating. So, and I know I look too young to have a child, but believe me, I do. But so, I mean, to me, the derby is so important because it allows us to sort of confirm that the form isn't an illusion. Spurs are a bit of a darling right now because, they've rediscovered Bale and all this stuff. Do you think maybe we could be playing them at the right time, only insofar as if they're resting Bale tonight, they're going to want to play Bale. That maybe Dele Alli comes in. Maybe that their slight increase in emphasis on attack will give us a little bit more opportunity to take advantage of them. I think what I really worry about more is playing against Spurs sitting deep, kicking long to Kane, head down to Son wins, win the first ball and score on the counter. Like, could we maybe be getting a Spurs that will play a little bit more open, and might that play into our hands?
Maybe. I think that's an interesting line of thought. It wasn't my line of thought. I think we're playing them at a terrible time. On the other hand, lately, it doesn't seem to be a good time for us with Mourinho generally to play them. So maybe you're onto something. Maybe that gives them an identity crisis. How does he not play an attacking team against us? And if it doesn't go to plan, then what does he do? Does he halfway through the game have to play more defensively? So, yeah, I could see that. Clearly, first goal would make a hell of a difference in this. But if he goes up a goal in a derby, then does he then want to get a little bit more defensive? So I guess we just got to give them a good game here so that we give him the choice. What's he want to do? They do seem to be in rather good form, and they do seem to have 3+ players who can score goals versus our 1 and a bit players who can score goals.
I got to stop you for a second.
Yeah.
Milan have scored an away goal against Manchester United in the most important European competition in all of football. Milan. We've got Milan 1, Man United 1. We've got Milan. We've got woohoo, Milan just equalized, leveler. Oh.
Let's not laugh too loud, eh?
Sorry, spoilers, people. But Milan. I remember us going to Milan when they had to put in a cow patch on each side of the pitch to keep our players in check.
It's brutal.
Have we seen as bad a miss as Maguire? Did you guys get a chance to see Maguire's miss by any chance?
Yes.
Clive?
It was a good miss. It was a very good miss.
Yeah, it was good. They tried to make excuses for him, of course. Yeah. Did the keeper get a touch? No, he just threw a tusk at it.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Look, I got a level with you. Technically, they already scored one. It was taken away. They scored twice. Yeah, Varchester United is the only reason that they are even level at all. But my man, that makes tonight. Look, if you can get rid of, not that we would go beat Milan, but if you can get rid of United, and if Spurs can somehow pull a Spurs, and if all the worst teams win, we could just go ahead and win this whole darn thing. Clive, tonight, obviously important, but just sort of finishing up our thoughts on the derby. Do you prefer a Spurs side that wants to play a little more attacking football and be a little more open? I mean, you never want to face Bale and Dele Alli if you can avoid it, but do they maybe lose a little of that structure that can so frustrate you and hit you with the counterpunch?
So how would you approach us if you were Mourinho? You would
sit deep and counter, baby.
Well, he can sit deep and counter. And they are good at counterattacks, make no mistake. So what
look at Leicester, Clive. When we've played Leicester, they don't even play. They just would sit back there and kick it to Vardy. I mean,
so if I'm Mourinho, I would get him to test our mentality early in the game. Try to get that first goal. If you watch Spurs in a lot of games, they are pretty offensive for 5 minutes, literally for 5 minutes. I think you may laugh at me, but if we're 0-0 at 10 minutes, I'll be really happy. I'd be really happy because now we can have a game. Now we can play. Now it's about control, and we can control the story of the game. Too many times in these games, we're chasing the game. So it's not a real contest. We're having to gamble. We're having to push people on. And that's exactly what they want. So we can almost do what Chelsea did to them. Almost don't play them for the first 10, 15. Make sure that his tactics can't come in. They're going to have to work for the spaces down the sides, right? So just play it cool, nice and calm, recycle the ball, and then develop your patterns from there on in. Get your one-on-ones, move the ball quicker, and start to stress them back into their box. But have a ring ready to go. So, we're building a 2-3-5, but really, really have that ring in shape. I think this is why I think Bellerin was rested. Because I think he's very good on sprinting into challenges. I just want him to get his starting position a bit better. Have lots of mobility to make sure you can win the races going backwards. I think it's very important. Control the story. Don't let them control the story because them look like puppy dogs jumping up at your legs and just trying to get in their goal. They have got Sanchez playing instead of Dyer now, so they do fancy themselves in their right-hand channel. They may even do like a Sissoko thing in the right back to try and stop us on the left-hand side, and with Sanchez and try to have running races with us. But I do think what we do in the 10 situation could be interesting. I wonder if Smith Rowe has been not saved, but could be brought out, give him a different problem, different connectivity problem. So try to control the story, I think. That's the key thing with Jose, because all he wants to do is exactly that, control the dynamics of the game. And they have some tactically smart players. I don't like them, but they're not dumb. They're not dumb.
Yeah. And they have quality, and quality can win games even when you're outplayed. I think that is the key Willian Pepe distinction, right? Like Spurs don't play great football in my view, but between Bale and Ali and Kane and Son, like there are players that can win the game even if they don't play well, and that's something that you worry about. I want to say thanks to James Blundell. I want to say thanks to Andrew Dubnansky. Thank you guys so much. Villarreal 2 up. Unai's coming for us. Paul, is there a scarier thought in the world than having to play Mikel Arteta versus Unai Emery in the Spurs in the final would be the worst, but second only would surely be having to go up against Unai Emery because narrative,
narrative. I must say on the derby though, it can pay not to be the favorite team coming in. It clarifies what you need to do, which is you need to get stuck in. So it wasn't always that easy for us playing derbies against Spurs when we were the stronger team, the better team. They had an annoying habit of getting points they shouldn't have got. So it's not all bad. Then you're up against Unai in the final of the Europa League. Well, at least I guess we're in the final of the Europa League. So
and we know how he does in Europa League finals, except
shit.
when he's with Arsenal.
Yeah. So... Yeah, I mean, what can you say? It will be a good problem to have, but yeah. I can see it.
We got to start to wrap up so we can actually watch the game, so we can come back in front of the microphones and do an instant reaction pod. So let's get to prediction time. Paul, what is your prediction? Score just to the first leg. You don't have to tell us what's going to happen in the tie, which is obviously Arsenal win comfortably because that's how we do this.
I think. I don't normally go optimistic on it. I think we're going to be very serious about this and beat them 3-1. That's what I think.
3-1? Who are the goal scorers for Arsenal? You don't have to name the ones for Olympiacos because who knows? Yeah.
We're going to have 3 goal scorers. We're going to have Aubameyang. We're going to have Saka. And we're going to have Pepe.
Pepe off the bench.
Yep.
To score a golazo to send him right back to the bench for the derby at the weekend. Cannot wait for it.
It'll be a scruffy Welbeck style, smuggle it over the line goal. I can picture it now.
Welbeck can't even smuggle him over the line these days, though. That's the only problem. Clive, who's smuggling in our goals and how many?
I don't care. I reckon we might win 2-1. But I just got a feeling for Odegaard, actually.
Get your predictions in, everybody. Come on. You got a feeling for Odegaard?
Yeah, I got a feeling for Odegaard scoring. I think he made a conscious effort to get shots off. And that's exactly what I'll be telling him. Get your shots off. You got a good shot. You got a good touch. Get out your feet. Get your shots off. Don't worry about these people calling for it. If you're in a position, bang it. So I've got a good feeling for him. So let's see how we go.
Yeah, my prediction, obviously I'm going to say 10-0 in a moment. We've got a lot of 2-1s for us. Odegaard and Oba hat trick. Luiz to score. You could see it. You would take it, frankly. And take whatever you can get, right, guys? But I'm going to say 3-1 to the Arsenal. And I think it could be a fun night. Now, does that mean we go on to win? Well, you would hope so. But remember, we did win the away leg last time, but this is sort of a home leg this time, so that's a good thing. One final word, Clive, do you want to tell the people that we love them?
Yeah, we always say this, right? But we're very fortunate with our audience. When you put yourself out there in the big world, you can get a bit of stick every now and again, but
some of us get more than others.
But even the stick we get is smart stick, if you know what I mean. It's not silly chat. So really appreciative of people's investment in what we're trying to do. So thank you very much.
Too kind. Joshua Lang, you will have that drink coming up. A Guinness sounds pretty good right about now to me too as well. Clive, thank you so much. I'm not going to let you go just yet because Paul has to say why he loves the people. This is not your strong suit, Paul. You're usually more of an F-em kind of guy. That's usually your part. I'm gonna make you do sincere here though, and send your love and appreciation out to everybody watching.
Yeah, sincerely, fuck 'em. Fuck him, Elliot.
This is going out live. There's people that might be kids.
Not the kids. The rest of them. Fuck the rest of them. The kids.
Young boys.
Love kids.
Young boys
Great.
getting it from Ajax
Yeah.
presently. Lots of good predictions. Want to say thank you so much for joining, everybody. Paul's on Twitter. Pause my pants. Thanks, Paz.
Woohoo!
Clive, always a pleasure, my man. Talk to you at the instant reaction, I hope.
Yeah, I got no choice. Thank you very much.
No, you don't. Clive's on Twitter at ClivePFC. Thanks, Clive. My name is Elliot Smith. You can block me on Twitter at Yankee Gunner. Thank you, everybody. We love you so much. Really appreciate you being here for this. It does mean the world to us, and we'll try to do a lot more of it. So that's the plan, is to do more of this. Big night for Arsenal. Big couple of days for Arsenal, and we're all in it together. So wherever you are, love you. Hope you're healthy. Hope you're well. My love to Andrew at Arsblog as ever. And hope you're doing okay, Andrew. And just everybody have a great rest of your day, night, wherever you are, and enjoy the game. We love you, and we will talk to you after Arsenal 10, Olympiacos 0.